Hi everyone. Our learning objective today is to create a design showing complex radial symmetry inspired by Islamic art. And to do that, we're going to need a piece of tracing paper. It's hard to see, it comes like that. A thick Sharpie and a thin Sharpie. Now most tracing papers come in an A4 size, which is a rectangle, and we need to start with a square. So to make your tracing paper into a square, you need to fold it over carefully onto the diagonal, and then you chop off this part here. And you've got a square. Now that's a good start because we are going to be folding up the piece of tracing paper. So we've got one diagonal and we can fold it on the opposite diagonal. It's a bit crinkly, sorry. Lining up the corners and the edges. Then we also need to fold it that way. And that way. So we have created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 separate sections. And we're going to start working in one section and then we'll be tracing that section all the way around. So to start your design, you might want to think about using a fine Sharpie or a thick one, varying the different size of lines. The first line that you do will determine what the centre of your finished design will look like. So if you do a line like that, you will end up with an 8-pointed flower. If you do that, you'll end up with an 8-pointed star. If you did something like that, you'd end up with something quite different. So you need to think about how you want yours to look. I'm going to start by doing like an upside down V, which will hopefully mean mine will end up with a star. And then what's also really good to do is to, whatever line you put on, is to put a parallel line above it, which makes an interesting design. You can think about using curves that sort of go like that. Put something in there, following it up and then changing it. I'm going to put circles, and remember you're going to have to trace this lots of times, so you need to think about how complicated and difficult you want to make it. If you want to do some parts with a thicker Sharpie, that will make it easier to do that. So you can think about doing zigzag lines and zigzag lines on top. You could think about wavy lines and wavy lines on top of that one. And then you could do little squares or triangles or whatever shape you wanted to. So that's like some of the ideas that you could use. So I've not taken very long to do that, just a couple of minutes. And that's the start of my radial symmetry design. So to do the next step of it, if I want to keep all the part where I've got the Sharpie on the same side, when I fold it, I need to fold that over there. Now, so that's the part that I just did. And then turn over here. Line that up properly so it matches. And I'm going to trace the section that I just did onto there. Now that I've traced that section, I've got 2 sections traced, but I did do something on here because I felt there was a bit too big a gap there. So the next time that I do it, I can trace these 2 sections together. So I'll fold that over. Like that, always keeping my right side as the right side. I've got that folded over now. So I've got 2 sections that I can trace together. I did smudge that a little bit there, but you can try and be careful not to do that. Okay, so I'm going to trace 2 sections together now. Now I've traced those 2 sections together. When I open it up, I've completed 1/2 of my design. I'm noticing the bit that I did with the fine Sharpie just looks a bit different, so I might change that up next time. So now I can turn it over and I can do the whole of the other half together. So I've got all that half to trace in one go. It's a bit complicated, but just take your time. Just take it easy. Try to be careful not to smudge. Move your paper around backwards and forwards to make things easier. So I'm going to do that now. So now that I've traced it all the way around, I've created my radial symmetry design. I'm going to add colour, but it's important to remember that you need to keep the colour symmetrical. So I'm using Sharpies, but you could use felt pens for this. So whatever you start doing something in one colour, you need to do the same thing in each section, the same colour. So just bear that in mind. Where you've got these kind of lines here that go all the way around, you need to do the whole lot in the same colour. You don't have to colour everything. You can leave some sections white. It'd get very boring if you coloured everything and it'd take too long. So I'm just going to carry on and do some colouring while you watch and fast forward. So I'm just doing the last little bit of colouring on my design. You can see that I've left quite a lot of sections white. So as I'm doing it, when it's bits that are round, I'm twirling my pen around. When it's bits that are straight up and down, I'm doing it more like a ladder. So I'm building up the sections. And there you have it. Turn it over. You can see it. Looks really good in the window with the light shining through. So I'm going to leave these sections white, and you could cut these bits around here to make it more of a circle as well if you wanted to. So that's my radial symmetry design inspired by Islamic art.